If you are interested in starting your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout because it is simple and easy to use. Buzzsprout can get your show listed on every major platform while giving you the resources for a great podcast website, audio players that can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening to your podcast, and tools to promote your episodes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and that is why over 100,000 podcasters are already subscribed to Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in our episode descriptions lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. So in return, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card from Buzzsprout while signing up for a paid plan. Most importantly, every subscription through our link is always appreciated and helps support our show so we can continue delivering the quality content that you guys listen to. That being said, back to the show.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew.
This is Joe.
And this time we're coming back at you with a book review. We know it's been a minute, but we've got a good one cooked up for you. So if you didn't hear on the last episode, you'll know now. We're doing Batman The Long Halloween, written by Jeph Loeb and art by Tim Sale. Really classic book, kind of a spiritual successor to Year One, which we also just reviewed. So go back and listen to that if you want to know some of the characters involved in this one. But it's a really good book, and that's all I'm going to say for now until we get into it.
Perfect. So where we'll start is chapter 1, which is called Crime. Coincidentally, it's Halloween Day. Carmine Falcone is throwing a society wedding for his nephew Johnny. In private, Carmine talks to Bruce Wayne about doing business, but Bruce kind of declines and later runs into Selina Kyle at this wedding. The two dance before they leave the venue, but on their way out, they find Harvey Dent knocked out in the parking garage. Carmine sent some guys out to rough up Dent because he was snooping around and taking pictures of the license plates. So Dent's interaction with Bruce and Selina is brief. Then Dent goes to visit Gordon while Bruce and Selina independently wait for it to get later and go into costume to kind of snoop around Carmine's estate.
Yeah, Dent was kind of being a pecker, though, in their little exchange they had. He was getting kind of testy with Bruce and being like, oh, well, why don't you help out more or less, He's like, oh, well, you have so much money. Why don't act like you're like the rest of us, okay? And then Bruce like, what the fuck, bro? I support you, dude.
That
funded your campaign.
Batman really pulled for Harvey Dent and felt like that was actually one of the people to trust in all of Gotham.
Yeah, and for him to be a douche, that's not cool. But the Bat and Cat are, out on the town. And they both kind of separately break into Falcone's estate, and they're rummaging through stuff, and Batman's always like, what are you doing here? You come here often? She's just, trying to horn him up a little bit and then leave. She blue balls him constantly, and he's just like, whatever, dude, I guess we can team up this time. And he's like, oh, we just team up all the time apparently. But they gotta whoop thugs as they do. It kind of happens all the time, and they have to escape, but Falcone puts a milli on the heads of both of them, so they've officially made an enemy with Falcone.
Facts. And a little while after, two guys are murdered, one of them being Carmine's nephew, Johnny, actually. And at the crime scene, there's a .22 caliber handgun used to kill him and a pumpkin left next to the body. So at this time, Batman has no idea who killed Carmine's nephew, but has the idea to find Catwoman. Although the motive is unclear, she does tip Batman off and tells him where Carmine is hiding all his cash, because at the moment Carmine has just been stacking it in a warehouse until he has an opportunity to launder it. But at the very end of this issue, Batman and Dent go to the warehouse on Halloween and try to stick it to Carmine by burning the building down with all of this cash in it. Dent returns home after him and Batman do this to the warehouse, but Dent is greeted by his wife at the front door and lets him know that he has a package. When the two open it together, the package explodes and the issue ends.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. They just got bombed at the end of the day. They were quick to figure out who was moving against him, because they already dropped the package off when he asked. He's like, when did that get here? She's like, oh, a few hours ago. So it's like they was waiting for him, bro. And they had a guy waiting outside the whole time who witnessed it, which is just crazy, dude. But as we see moving into chapter 2, Thanksgiving, Dent is supposedly dead to the world as far as everyone knows, and these Irish dudes did it. So just some Irish gang that was kind of implied to be employed by, Falcone, Maroni, all the bad guys who don't like him, but they can't exactly pin it on him. And there's a montage of like, you know, them hanging out, getting interrogated and stuff like that, and learning about these dudes. But meanwhile, Batman, he was the one who actually chased one of the Irish guys into a sewer because this dude was trying to dip out on him, and Batman was on his ass. So he dipped down in the sewer thinking he's gonna get away, but then he gets cornered by Solomon Grundy, who just roams around down there.
That was kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that reading this story, but it makes sense, especially because it's such like a Halloween themed book.
Right. Yeah, it's really cool because, I mean, you also don't, like, your first thought is, like, you know, maybe it's the Killer Croc, you know, roaming the sewers. But, you know, Grundy is way, I would say, almost more terrifying to run into in the sewers. Some giant, dumb zombie guy.
Especially because he's dumb.
I know. But Batman unfortunately has to duke it out with old Grundy, who's all simple-minded, just wants to be left alone in his sewer. But, you know, Batman has to put the whooping on him to save the Irish dickhead. And, you know, that guy doesn't really want to squeal. He's more scared of dying than anything, you know, going on. He's got to keep the secret close to the vest is what I'm trying to get across. But all the guys, they do end up teaming up and, you know, having a confession. And, you know, they did it as cleanly as possible. And they're like, oh, rats. But they did think that they had enough to slam him because guess what? Harvey was undercover as Mickey the whole time. And, you know, he says, I don't really want to charge them. And Gordon's like, no, you have a chance to. Like, let's throw them away, dude. And he's like, you know, they'll be dead on the streets in hours or whatever anyways. He's like, you know, we can't put them in there, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, Harvey's a little angsty. You know, Gordon and Batman are kind of like, this guy's a little angry. Get a little extra juice on this one. But then we see that, yeah, as Dent's alive, he has to go spend Thanksgiving at the hospital with Gilda, who did get tossed up in the explosion, apparently. Harvey made it out okay. Crazy how that works, huh? But, you know, Gordon's all alone because he's always working the late shift, so he's, you know, sitting in his drawers, just eating chicken or turkey legs, just having a sad time on Thanksgiving. And then Batman, you know, he had Alfred whip up a plate for Grundy.
That was sweet, too.
Yeah, dude, Grundy was eating better than Gordon, bro. But yeah, it was pretty sweet of Batman to, you know, treat Grundy to a dinner. And at the end of the issue, we see that the Irish dudes end up getting lit up and absolutely murked. And that's crazy.
Yeah, the only difference with this one is that they, instead of a pumpkin, they leave like a cornucopia behind.
Brought the whole ass cornucopia to the murderer.
Well, moving from like the Thanksgiving issue into chapter 3, Christmas, the story opens up to the Joker this time, and he's reading a newspaper, and in that newspaper is an article about the town now believing there's a holiday killer on the loose, and it's Christmas Eve, so people are panicking. What's funny is we find out the Joker was reading this in someone's house, then steals their Christmas presents and leaves, which is downright evil. But Batman and Gordon visit Calendar Man and offer him some time off his sentence if he can give them any clues, but then this dude just bugs out about the holidays coming up, so they just leave. Joker is now bothering Maroni later in the story, and the reason being is he's the second biggest crime boss at this time, and Falcone being number 1, but it's because Joker thinks Maroni is actually the holiday killer, given he has the most to gain from killing Falcone's people. So Falcone says it's not him, and the Joker ends up leaving, but funny enough, Batman shows up to bug Maroni about the same things. So to end this issue, the Joker makes one last stop, and it's to wake up Falcone himself. He tells him that he will kill everyone in Gotham if he doesn't figure out who this holiday killer is, and the Joker flees after that, and Falcone's best bodyguard, Milos, actually tries to chase him down, but is shot before he gets too far, and it's the same type of gun, but with the snow globe instead of the cornucopia.
Yeah, Milos got absolutely glocked up. And that leads us into chapter 4, New Year's Eve. And that's where, you know, we start off, Joker's got a plane. So that's never good. And he's planning to spread Joker toxin on everybody in, like, the town square on New Year's Eve.
Classic.
Yeah, he's like, there's a pretty good chance that the guy's here, so I'll just hit them all and we'll find out. And Batman's like, no. And he's like, well, now I have to stop him before midnight. And, you know, meanwhile that's happening, there's like a Falcone yacht party out in the bay, and more or less Alberto gets glocked up too, and
it's his son,
his only son.
Yeah, which is sad because he's the only one in the family that doesn't get respect. You know, he seems like less intimidating than the others, and so they're just kind of like, this guy's harmless, let's keep him out of the family business, but we're glad to have you.
the Gordons are at the Dent house. Meanwhile, this is all happening. Gordon and his wife are there, and Dent is just like, "Oh, son of a bitch." He's like, "Why is Gordon in the living room?"
He did say that.
And they're like, "Well, we thought we'd just have a good time together." And he's like, "Well, we gotta go talk about Bruce Wayne." Ooh. Now he's trying to implicate my mans with the implication because he's rich and has ties to Falcone, allegedly. But as we know, as the readers, Bruce is like, "No way." He's like, "Hell nah." He's like, "I don't care what my dad did. That ain't what I'm about. This guy sucks."
Well, after they lock up Alberto on the boat, they leave like a champagne glass, but the story flashes to Dent, and he's walking into his house. He's greeted by his wife, and she makes a weird remark about him being wet, as if he may have been on the boat. So there's kind of like this thing being implied that he could be the holiday killer at this point, but then she surprises him because Gordon and his wife are at his house unexpectedly.
Yeah, he was waiting, dude.
Yeah, Dent's stressed, but finds a place in the house to kind of tell Gordon that he thinks Bruce is up to something. And to conclude the issue, Batman was able to catch the Joker, prevent him from gassing the town, but there's still no clue really as to who the holiday killer is for sure. And that brings us to Chapter 5, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and, Bruce, well, we find out that Dent and Gordon are, rolling up to Wayne Manor because they want to talk to Bruce Wayne. And they start, chit-chatting and stuff like that. And Dent's like, "Oh, I don't go to Bruce Wayne's parties, blah, blah, blah. I'm too cool. I don't want to go there. He's a douche." It's like, why is he always tipping? And Alfred more or less just says, "You're lame, dog." He's like, "They're pretty fun." And like Gordon was even like, "What, you never been here before?" He's like, everybody rolls up when Bruce sends out the invites, but he don't probably say hi to too many people. But Alfred is, walking them through, just kind of doing his best to cover for, Bruce and Batman, as, a loyal dog does. He's the homie.
He really is one.
Yeah, and he says, "Oh, isn't it Valentine's Day, boys? You need to get home to your ladies." And they're like, "Oh, shit."
He got us.
Yeah, and Bruce is confronting, while this is all going on, he's confronting Falcone at his son's grave. And, he's kind of giving him the business. He's not being, warm or nothing to him. And he's like, "You pretty much caused this, you know that, right?" And he's like, Falcone's like, "You dare talk to me that way?" And he's ready to shoot him, but Catwoman shows up. And, they team up yet again. Because, if there's Falcone, there's Catwoman not far behind. And, that's also when we see the DA assistant, Vernon, Dent's boy, hanging out. He's
I know Dent's boy.
Yeah, he's actually a huge puss because he's selling out his boss to Maroni. And it's just like, man, there's snitches everywhere up in the Gotham PD and DA and apparently everywhere. But, Holiday's going around to murk another Falcone squad at his restaurant and killed the dudes in the car.
Leaves a heart-shaped box of chocolates. What's interesting is that both Gordon and Harvey both come home late to their wives with the same type of heart-shaped box of chocolates that were left at the scene. But Bruce comes home with a rose that cut his finger. He keeps walking, and in his house is a lady, and it's not Selena, but Poison Ivy.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. The robed figure that gave him the rose, I couldn't really make out who that was until they did the close up and you could see a little bit of green. So that was cool. But
Chapter 6, St. Patty's Day. To start this issue, Falcone's daughter Sophia is released from the Gotham penitentiary. Bruce shows up to a board meeting about his banks doing business with Falcone and gives them the verbal consent, which is unlike him at this point, because to this point he's been completely against the notion of doing business with them since the beginning of the story. Sophia's first plan of action is to visit her aunt. She actually walks in on her aunt shooting targets with the same gun that's been left behind at the crime scenes, which kind of makes you wonder, but Sophia tells her that they are gonna be putting a hit on Maroni for St. Patrick's Day because Falcone believes that Maroni has to be holiday because he's got the most to benefit from it, because it's only been his family that has really suffered so far. But there's a small moment where we see Bruce and Poison Ivy eating dinner together at his place, and when the moment gets interrupted by Catwoman though, she found out why Bruce has been making these bizarre decisions on behalf of his company, and it's Ivy. So Ivy escapes her attack, but she's at least least able to save Bruce. So moving forward, bullets are flying and people are dying, and the panels almost suggest that this is the hit. But we see the same gun and a leprechaun statue left at this crime scene. So Holliday's still at it. And then at the end of this issue, we see Sophia pull up to the house that had the hit, but it changes things. And so she leaves. Maroni's there to see it, but we do see Falcone at the end of this issue giving Poison Ivy some money for brainwashing Bruce. And so we know he's doing business with a lot of Batman's villains at this point in time, which leads us to Chapter 7, April Fool's Day.
Yeah, and they're kind of going through hypotheticals of like who it could be, going through kind of how each murder had a cheap gimmick left on it on its respective holiday, and stuff like that. The Riddler is talking to Falcone, Batman is talking with Alfred, and they're both kind of going over their respective lists and, you know, thoughts with, you know, the person they're conversating with. And, you know, Riddler's kind of insinuating that Catwoman may be behind it. Batman's kind of leaning towards Maroni at this point. So, you know, they're both like on the trail, but they don't have anything like definitive. They only have like motives and like anecdotal evidence to go off of at this point. They think that it could even be Carla Vitti, you know, Falcone's sister, and Alfred is the first one to be like, you know, it could have even been Harvey Dent. And it's just like, damn, you know, why don't they just include Alfred on more of these, you know, meetings and stuff like that, because he's a good guy to bounce ideas off of, apparently. Like, he's doing more than Gordon, but he ain't talking to anybody about who it could be. He's like, well, we're working with Batman, we'll put it on him, he doesn't get paid. But you know, Harvey and Bruce start kind of having some beef because they're both kind of starting to think of each other as being the culprit. And, you know, they all had like a pact to trust each other, and they've even, you know, worked together on this, but like there's still distrust among them because this has gone on for so long. But the Riddler starts changing his tune because he gets thrust out of, you know, the hangout when he won't definitively say like who it is, and there he kind of gives like an implication at this point in time that it's like Falcone. He's like, is it you? And then Falcone even says me, and then he starts laughing. So it's like at this point it's pretty vague who it could be because there's so many people that have stakes in this, or, you know, could have. And he sends the Riddler outside, but surprisingly nobody dies that night on this holiday. So, you know, maybe the April Fool was that nobody would die.
That's a pretty cool way to cap that holiday, because it's been different than the one so far. But moving to Chapter 8, it's Mother's Day. Batman goes to revisit Calendar Man to ask him why the holiday didn't kill Riddler on April Fool's. He kind of insinuated the same thing. Batman starts to question him about Harvey Dent when one of the security guards actually collapses behind Batman, letting him know Scarecrow escaped. Batman tries to catch him, but when he does catch up to him, we find out it's a literal Scarecrow and full of gas. And so not only did Scarecrow get away, but it also really messed up Bruce Wayne because he's kind of bugging out at this point. Moving to Falcone's daughter, however, is making her own headway and found a man that was known to make all of these guns at every crime scene because he makes one of the same guns every single month. So that is probably a good a start at any, and this takes her to a place called Chong's Tea House. When she pulls up to Chong's, shots are already being fired again. The shooter does escape, and a man is dead on the ground with a basket of flowers. To end this issue, Gordon and the gang find Bruce Wayne at the location where his mom's murdered. Dude is still tripping, so he runs from the cops. Bruce is basically jumping building to building, which is nuts, and as he was in, like, if he were in the bat suit, but he ends up finding his way to his mom's grave site, and Gordon's not too far behind, which leads us to Chapter 9, which is Father's Day.
Yeah, and on Father's Day, we have a flashback. So this is on, like, I think it was like a rainy, fateful day, or night, rather. Dr. Wayne has people show up to his door, and he had to save Carmine Falcone because of Luigi Maroni, and they had to do surgery at his home on the table. And he has a chat with Falcone's father, and is like, look, it's not about money, it's, you know, it's just kind of what he does. Like, he already is wealthy, like, what more could he really, like, need from someone? And like the corrupt friendship wasn't really his deal, but he's gonna save a life. But popping out of that,
to save a life.
Okay. So who's not saving lives right now is Bruce, because he's behind bars, and because obviously they caught the guy who was tripping sack in the cemetery. What did they do?
Could you imagine trying to take down Bruce Wayne when he's tripping?
Yeah, the Portland police do it all the time.
No, but I mean, like, Abin Sur could come out and like just...
Oh yeah, his like backup. Yeah. Soft reboot. Dude, he's a menace.
No way.
Oh hell no, he's like virtually sleepwalking demon.
Yeah,
he's gonna get you. But Alfred was slamming everyone on the stand because this had to go to trial, a little court.
Yeah, they want to try Alfred.
Yeah, and Alfred came with receipts. And he's like, you know what? Maybe the city ain't so different, boys.
So you guys have a lot of self-reflecting to do.
And Gordon's like, damn it, dude. He's like, you got a lot of juice on that one. He's like, that's going to cost us.
Spicy.
And so we see Sal asking his pa how to deal with Holiday. But literally, as soon as those words leave his mouth, his dad gets glocked up. And he's like, oh, no. And yeah. Didn't they leave him like a tie or something?
They did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a tie this time. The other guy got a leprechaun statue.
Yeah. Who got the better deal?
Power rank holidays gift items.
Yeah.
Number 1, pumpkin.
What sucks is all this stuff was bought at the Five Below.
He's gonna run out of stuff. He's gonna leave like phone chargers.
I wish.
Could really use one.
Yeah.
But anywho, Bruce gets acquitted because of course he does. Rich dudes don't go to prison. But we see everyone go back to their respective homes at the end of the day, as we've seen a few other times throughout the book. And Gordon got a tie from his son. He's like, is there a better gift than this? So the Gordons have been so wholesome this whole time,
and the Dents have not.
No, Dent is all just like, I'm trying to dent some box, and like that's what
you read the same book.
Yeah, dude, like a few holidays ago he was like, I'm ready to dent. The Gordons are like, oh, I think it was Thanksgiving. But other than that, it's been a little tense. Yeah. But hand in hand. But Harvey got a coin from his dad.
So would you rather a coin or the tie?
That's why he's been pissed. Wait, why did he get a coin? He's not even a dad. He should have gave his dad the coin or a tie. Anywho, besides them, hanging out and getting whatever, Scarecrow and Mad Hatter are starting to team up. Then. The coin?
Yeah.
How much you think it's worth? At most $1?
Yes.
Okay. But the Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter are teaming up, and you don't want two freaks teaming up because two freaks are worse than one. And Falcone is kind of implied to be financing these jerkwads as well. Towards the end here, we start to see Bruce being sad about Dad and how we never seen no vulnerable Bruce no mo. He was on the verge of tears, like, was this what Pa would like? And Alfred's like, yes, he would. You are your father's son. And he's like, oh, thank you, Alfred. And it caps off by Big Maroney hanging out in Dent's office being like, what's up, dog? I've come to bargain. And that's how that ends.
Right. Chapter 10, Independence Day. So
Dent's Day.
Civilian is murdered while the fireworks are going off because it's the 4th of July. Selena Kyle is celebrating with Bruce. She wants to go off grid with them, but the back signal gets flashed, so Batman always takes business over, his personal life and tends to that. Dent is the one actually who flashed the signal this time and tells Batman that Maroney is going to testify on behalf of Falcone's crimes. Afterwards, he's looking to leave the city, and they do, however, get interrupted by Gordon as he lets them know about the murder that just took place, but is puzzled because this is the first murder that doesn't seem tied to Falcone. Batman finds out that Scarecrow and Mad Hatter have been planning on gassing the city for Independence Day and is convinced that they must be working with Falcone. So to conclude this issue, him and Catwoman capture Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter, so Batman asks her if she's open to helping him take down Falcone, but she's more disappointed that he doesn't want to go off grid with her. So chapter 11, Roman Holiday.
So it kind of starts off with, the Batman interrogating the Riddler, Gilda finding Harvey's guns in the basement, and he says that he brings you home evidence all the time. And she's like, you do? Because she caught him in the act. Yeah, the Batman's he's asking the Riddler, like, why didn't you die? And they kind of come to the conclusion that it's, so he can kind of spread the word about Carmine and everybody's looking for Holiday, I guess. So Maroni does end up taking the stand as the case starts. On his way to the stand, I think it was Vernon or somebody slipped him something for his ulcers, and he starts to take the stand, and they start questioning him, and he goes under earth, but he starts kind of like coughing or like kind of getting short of breath, and he's trying to take like antacid, and he's like cough, oh, I don't feel so good. And Dent gets right up in his grill. And then Maroni says, hi, you fool. And he shoots him in the face with acid. And he's like, that's going to eat your face and you're going to die. And Dent's just like, ah! Like fucking shrieking on the floor. Yeah. And it's no good. And we see Dent, it kind of jumps around, but they're like, how is he doing? And they're like, it's not good. He escaped. Or they're like, he's no longer with us or whatever. And they're like, wait, he's dead? And they're like, no, he stabbed a surgeon in the back and dipped. And it's just like, what? This dude just got acid attacked and he's out there crawling around. That's crazy.
That is crazy. I guess the last little bit of this issue, we see Falcone's sister killed, which gives us another one of the Holiday murders.
Yeah, it was just Falcone's birthday, hence the Roman holiday, and his sis got popped.
Yeah.
So it turns out it wasn't her.
Nice. Well, moving to chapter 12, there's only one more issue after this, but this one's Labor Day. Dent has been missing for over a month, and we find him with bandages all over his face and in the sewers because he wants to talk to Solomon Grundy for some reason. He has a way with words, I guess, talking to Grundy, and Grundy seems pretty calm and relaxed listening to him, so it's clear Harvey Dent's no longer just Harvey Dent, though. You do see that something kind of flipped in his head, and no, he is Two-Faced, even though we still only see the bandages. Going back to Batman, he talks to Gordon because the popular opinion right now is that Harvey Dent is Holiday. However, Batman's not completely convinced of that, so his next course of action is to find Dent in order to get a little more light on the situation, and it starts with him visiting Falcone. Falcone says he doesn't know where Dent is, and that dude killed his sister, nephew, and his son. So Falcone also says that this has felt like the longest Halloween ever. So
he said the thing.
He said the thing. He also says that this should have all ended last Halloween, and Batman and the city police have just let this carry on for a year because it's affecting his family. Batman gives Falcone a good shove, though, and then finds Catwoman spying nearby. So kind of similar to the Hush story we reviewed. He grabs her by the wrist with enough force to like break it, and asks her why she's always around every time he's around Falcone, and she basically says it's none of his business and finds another way to escape. That being said, Batman finds Dent's wife next to see what she knows. She doesn't know much, but she does want to help him find Harvey because they both thought that they knew him well. To conclude the issue, though, it's thought that Maroni is going to be the next one Dent comes after because it's Labor Day. So Gordon gets him to a more high secure location, and so he tries to transfer him from one cell to a more protective one, but then they get hit. So ironically, it's Maroni this time. He's shot and killed, and so are the guards with him, it appears, but also a gun is pointed at Gordon, and Gordon has a flashlight pointed at the killer, which is Holiday's face. And it's at the very end of this issue we find out Holiday's not Dent.
Holiday is not Dent. And, in chapter 13, which is Punishment, Gordon, it turns out he had a vest on, and he got Alberto. And Batman was actually in full costume, masquerading as a guard, which was hilarious, because that means he had, 3 costumes on.
It just smells like shit.
It's like, how did it fit over his batsuit? But Batman is,
How do you move around in that thing, too?
I bet he squeaks, too. He's like his rubber boots. running around. But Batman is down there kind of like strangling him, and it kind of reaffirms that he can't kill. But Holiday is captured. Finally, thank God. Batman starts kind of blaming himself for suspecting that it could have ever been Harvey, and he's like, oh man, I really fucked up.
They explain too that Alberto never died on that New Year's. It was just staged so he could quietly pick off Maroni's family. But then he was even willing to kill his own family when they got close to busting him for those crimes, and kind of did it because he was always excluded from them.
Yeah, they could have really used him on the team, apparently. He was really good at what he did.
Yeah.
He stumped Batman
his dad
for a year.
had a little respect for it, too.
Yeah, he's like, just, say this and I'll cover for you. But he was down. He's like, you killed my sister. You did this. It's fine. So that's crazy. But this is where you find out where things are kind of have gone awry. Like, even though he has respect for that, he doesn't even know his son's birthday. Alberto's like
freaking out.
Yeah, he was pissed. I mean, if your dad didn't know your birthday, and he's like, I don't want any of your favors. It's like, he's like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, he says, I'm bigger than you and all the other villains you hired put together.
Right. He's like, he's big dick in his dad. He's like, I'm cooler than you. But on here, we also see the Gordon's visiting Gilda on Halloween, kind of checking in on her since she's always alone now since her husband's roaming the streets
with two faces,
with multiple faces. And Dent's at Arkham Asylum just hanging out, letting people out apparently, but once he gets to Calendar Man, he flips the coin and he's like, no. He left him in there, which is cool because he sucks.
Yeah.
And it looks like all the supervillains are ready to start attacking the Falcons. So they fight them. Dent's officially Two-Face, as we've just mentioned. And, Batman's coming in to break up all the freaks that are all fighting. Taking them out one by one, like most intimidating to least. And, and Two-Face ends up just shooting Falcone. And he says, if you ask me, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. It's crazy.
Right.
Den's been holding on to that one. Sophia she falls out a window. That was sick. Vernon gets killed too because he's a weasel. Yeah, Dent got his ass. And that's where we find out that there were more than one Holiday.
Dent implies that there's been two all along and that Batman should know that.
And Batman's like, man, this dude's fixated on two. Don't know why. He just brushes it off. But we find out, we see Gilda just kind of having an inner monologue like, I knew it was your guns and I caped for you. She like covered up. She's like, I'd do anything for you, my Apollo. She was down to ride, even with having two faces. She's like, that guy rules. That's my dude.
My girlfriend.
Yeah, she's loyal as fuck, dude. That's crazy. But yeah, this was a long one, but like it didn't read long. For it being 13 issues, you can kind of power through this, like, compared to most things. That's all I got for that. Do you want to get into ratings?
Yeah, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. At the end, it was very cool to see all of the villains together when Two-Face shoots Falcone. You had like Catwoman in the room, Poison Ivy, Sullivan Grundy, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter. It was cool seeing Catwoman with them too at the very end. Like they all kind of played a role in all of this, and I wasn't expecting both Maroni and Falcone to die in this series, which was pretty hardcore too. And also, Berger and I were kind of wondering before recording this, like, what is Harvey Dent's like origin story? Like, how did he get scarred on one half of his face? And it turns out that it was Maroni, and that Maroni's been around just as long in comics as Harvey Dent, and this is kind of like a retelling of that origin, so to speak. So like I said in our Batman villain rankings, Harvey Dent is my favorite Batman villain, and he solidified that for me in this. Now that we've read both Hush and this, I could see where Hush kind of borrowed some elements of kind of just it being like chapter to chapter, different villain, who is actually behind all of this. So I also like that they brought up quite a few times that Gotham has doubled in prisoners and stuff since Batman showed up, which also goes back to one of our episodes in the past as well about the correlation between heroes and supervillains, which I thought was cool. So last thing I'll say is I loved the art. There were some panels where I just had to like stop what I was doing and really look at the page. A lot of them really popped. It was 13 issue series, but each issue read really short, but had a lot of content still, so the spacing between everything just felt very smooth. It actually is probably my second favorite Batman story now. I would definitely recommend reading it. I enjoyed it a lot. How about you, Berger?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in lockstep with you. I was going to give it a 9.5 as well. I thought it was really good. Like I said, it's kind of like a spiritual successor to Batman Year One. A lot of the same players are involved with Falcone, Maroni, kind of early Gordon, early Batman, kind of coming into his own in this one, like a Year Two type deal almost.
Did you like it better than Year One?
Yeah, I think so. It was
too.
It's a more compelling story, even though like it is a 13 issue series. Like you said, it read really quick. Relatively speaking, you could take your time, but like the panels weren't packed, but they were impactful.
Yeah.
So it really conveyed the story and pushed it along. I think the art was perfect for the tone of the book. Kind of like a blockier, beefier kind of Batman even. A lot of like abstract and like proportions, like when it came to the supervillains, where it felt realistic in a way, but also cartoony. But it felt like like the iconography of Batman. It fit all of that. Like it looked very much so Batman.
It captured the relationship between Batman and Catwoman pretty well too.
Yeah, like I think between the differences in the characters, the tone of voice for each one, they all kind of
good cast of villains and good use of the characters.
Yeah, they hit the mark. Like it wasn't too much or too little of any one of them necessarily, and it was really good. So yeah, 9.5, phenomenal art, great storytelling. It kind of keeps you, especially if you're not already familiar with the story, because there is the animated film as well, which I think I only saw half because I
haven't watched, but I will after this.
I think it's a two-parter. I watched, I think, the first half, but that's solid. But that's all I had coming into this story. So I only knew a little bit through the first few chapters, but after that it was all hands off. I didn't know how it was going to finish, and I thought it was really good.
I went in completely blind myself. This is something I haven't read before. As I just mentioned, I never watched the animated movie. And frankly, I tried to stay away from it because I knew we would be doing this for the podcast at one point, and I'm glad we finally made time for it.
Yeah, I agree. And, just a quick reminder, thank you for all of you listening. We do really appreciate it. We love all the good feedback and all the people reaching out. But you know where to reach us if you're new here. It's CBJ Podcast, at CBJ Pod on Instagram. That's our main hub, Comic Book Junkies, or at CBJ Podcast on Facebook. That's another good way to get at us. We do have a YouTube page. It's all audio stuff, but it is basically a backlog of all of our episodes if you want to go through that way. We've been reaching out to new people through there, so shouts out to you guys as well. But yeah, if you could leave a star rating, review, anything like that, we'd greatly appreciate it. Helps us get found in the algorithm. I don't know how that works, but trust the process. And yeah, we appreciate you guys.
Hope you guys enjoy the book reviews just as much as we do. We're working a late hour tonight, so we don't know exactly what's coming next, but we look forward to it. So that being said, till next time, guys.
Later.